T minus 3, 2, 1, ignition.
What you know about this life? Yeah. Just relax, baby, get high. Yeah, you're on your way to the best night ever. No top on it, no top, no top. Out with the stars.
Hello, Best Night Ever League. Welcome back from your Thanksgiving break. Today, special guests are Denver and Ellie. They're going to have their own Thanksgiving feast today on the show. So let's get things started. Here's to your week 12 recap and week 13 preview hosted by us four right here.
Hello everyone and welcome. We are happy to have you.
We've got a lot to cover, not a lot of time, so let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
The first match of the week was highly anticipated as a playoff spot was on the line, as well as a stress-free week 13 to gather yourself before the playoffs. Top G versus Not So Happy Ending did not disappoint as it was our closest matchup of the week.
Yeah, I saw Michael screaming at the TV for Keenan Allen to score another touchdown on the last Chargers drive, but of course Justin Herbert throws it to Eckler for the win. And instead of giving Keenan the extra shot in overtime, the Chargers put it in the best player's hands.
That Herbert guy's pretty good, huh, Denver?
Looking deeper into the matchup, this was Michael's best case scenario for getting that win for a playoff spot, as this seems to be the floor for Not So Happy Ending. His two running back spots combined for 3.4 points, and although Chubb saved the RB group in his flex spot with 23, that is less than 10, what is PPG?
Points per game.
For trio, which is unlikely to happen again.
I looked pretty good after that first Thanksgiving game with Amon-Ra St. Brown putting up a fabulous game with 26 points. We're going to have a drink to that.
Oh, it's okay, Ellie's got it down. She's drinking for the both of them.
Ellie's having a drink to that one. So that got my hopes up, that it was going to be a perfect week and everything was going to work out. Following that up, Saquon put up a respectable game against the tough Dallas defense, but it was Dalton Schultz that really stole the show there with a 2-touchdown game, which basically answered Jacob's tight end prayers and rewarded him. So that fab was well spent on Dalton Schultz there. It paid off nicely.
The matchup was pretty even going into Game 3 of Thanksgiving, but it was Justin Jefferson who stole the show. 9 out of 11 and 139 yards and a touchdown, giving him almost 28 points, set the tone for Jacob's week.
It didn't help that Dalvin Cook touched the ball 26 times for 56 yards. The New England Patriots defense absolutely stuffed them at the line. But at least TJ Hawkinson saved the day with a great touchdown grab, giving him 13. Compared to Dalton Schultz, 17. That was great. Still felt pretty good going into the weekend.
So it looks like Denver and Ellie don't like pickles. So can you believe that Michael still thinks Denver Broncos are good? Russell Wilson hasn't even broke 13 points since week 4. But he still sits there with his Russell Wilson jersey on. Both of these two, or even Ellie's wearing it today. He still watches the TV thinking this week is going to be different. To make it even worse, he has two Denver Broncos on his fantasy team that are lucky to get him 20 points on a good week.
Patrick Mahomes has the worst game all season with 20 points, which is kind of crazy to say. And I still couldn't get the win. So what made things even worse for this matchup is that on Friday night I was texting Connor about Chris Godwin. He told me that I should text him on Saturday, that he would be more drunk, and that maybe we can get a trade done. I forgot to text him. The trade was not done. If I would have gotten Chris Godwin, I would have won this week and taken the playoff spot instead of Jacob. But I could not close the deal. And
Final score was 129 to 122.
a close matchup, but a heartbreaker. For our next matchup, we recap the overrated Bills stack versus Team Taco.
Team Taco is one of our best comeback stories this year, as he went from the brink of having a complete disappointment of a season to having a realistic shot of making the playoffs. But Bobby did what he's done all year and rode his Bills and Raiders to victory.
50 points for Josh Jacobs. Can you believe that? All the way down the line, when you look at Bobby's team, you see stud players that can go off in any game. He has a real shot of being the champion this year, and it just all has to come together at the end.
Josh Allen and Stefan Diggs had their average 45-point game. Dak has a lackluster 12, and A.J. Brown went for 10, and he still scores over 170. This team is going to be hard to beat over a 2-week stretch.
On the flip side, Nick got a great game from his two QBs, with Kyler giving him 24 and Derek Carr giving him 19. The Kyler trade kind of started to pay off there. Nick struggled to get production from his role players as his remaining players averaged less than 9 points apiece. Nick did not have Justin Fields, but the QB group was not the main problem this week. He remains a boomer bust team going into the final week of the regular season. And congrats to Bobby on securing the number 1 seed.
Here's some good tea right here. Maybe if Nick spent less time dancing like Ben Franklin and more time managing his football team, he might have secured himself a playoff spot by now.
Oh.
On to the next matchup. We have Connor versus Cam.
Connor took his 3rd straight win this week off of perfect play from basically everybody on his team. Lamar and Jalen did what they do best and ran like they were running backs. 157 yards rushing and 100 yards rushing before halftime is craziness. He had 4 more rushing yards than passing yards, while Lamar had a modest 89 yards, which is more than most of the RB slots in our league. Every single skilled player on his team scored over 12, and that's really all you can ask for.
Looks like he's setting himself up for another playoff choke.
Oh my gosh. You're full of disses right now. Cam was coming off a hot week after he basically blew up his team for draft picks, and all of a sudden, he was thinking playoffs.
You know what they say though, lightning never strikes in the same place twice.
The squad could not put together another magical week as he only managed 108 points this week, with his top scorer being Joe Burrow at 18.
To be fair, he is missing his second best player in Jamar Chase, but this team has proven that they can win as the underdog, and he isn't quite given up on his playoff hopes quite yet.
We have a massive matchup for Cam's team when we have the Chiefs play the Bengals next week. We all know what happened last year in Week 17 when that happened, so we will look forward to that matchup. The final matchup of the week proved to be the most surprising and exciting matchup. The extra chromosome showed his extra chromosome as he rode strength all the way to his best week of the season. Justin Herbert got his receivers back, and he had his best game of the season with 28. Geno Smith showed why he's worth more than a 5th-round pick, and James Conner gives him the value he wanted after taking him with his first pick in the draft. T. Higgins had an incredible game, and Thomas manifested this win to show he knows how to play spoiler.
If Andrew got the win this week, he would have set up his first playoff appearance and best night ever league history. While his team played great, it wasn't meant to be. Andrew has a star-studded team, but he couldn't put it together at the right time.
Having 3 49ers combined for 23 points did not help, and while the rest of his team played great, he has to look forward to next week to see if the playoffs are in his future.
Thank you for watching this Week 12 recap brought to you by Denver, Ellie, Michael, and I. So good luck to you all next week.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed that little recap from last week, but let's get down to business. We got the week 13, the last week of the season, and I think that's what everybody's most interested in is what this playoff scenario is going to look like. So when we look at the matchups, it's going to be kind of interesting because we have Connor versus myself, and Connor obviously has the
the advantage. It's going to take a miracle for me to win this week in general. My matchups are not great. I'm finally moving off of Russell Wilson, so I think good things are in my future. But I have a tough matchup for Tua. Saquon and Dalvin don't necessarily have the best matchups, and then all the way down the board, just Connor's kind of got me beat at every position. So there's a very realistic possibility that I lose this week. And so what does that mean for everybody else? We have Finley playing Thomas, which is the most likely scenario for getting a win. So if we look down this line, it obviously is dependent on Justin Fields playing. But if Justin Fields doesn't play, over down on his bench, he does not have another quarterback. So that's going to be something to watch. So we need Justin Fields to play. Derek Carr has a great matchup against the Chargers. I think all year Thomas's team had some potential. They just never quite put it together. Herbert didn't have his receivers, and the second he got a healthy Keenan Allen for a full game against a decent defense, not the greatest defense in the Cardinals, but he just lit them up for 28 points. Geno's been playing good all year, but it's going to be a tough matchup against the Rams. Looks like he has Brian Robinson and Najee in the starting lineup right now, but it's going to be dependent on this injury. It looks like he's still missing practice as of Wednesday. T. Higgins has been fantastic. We can't, he wasn't what Thomas wanted him to be, but this is kind of exactly what he did last year, where he was kind of just treading water all season and then just turn it on come the end of the year. So 22-24 back-to-back weeks is fabulous. And then, like I was saying earlier, this Kansas City matchup is massive for the Bengals. They have to score a lot of points. They got to throw the ball, and T. Higgins is that guy right now. So that's going to be a huge matchup for Thomas. And then Mark Andrews, not quite what Thomas wanted. Obviously, some tough weeks since Thomas has gotten him, but I think that maybe he'll have that kind of coming out game this week. Broncos have some good corners, so I imagine they take advantage of the outside linebackers with Andrews if he lines up in the slot or tight end spot. So all in all, this is going to be the matchup to watch because Finley has a great chance to win. I think that it's been pretty obvious this season that although everybody was so close in record towards the end of the year, there was obviously 3 heavyweights in our league, Bobby being by far and away the best, Connor second, and Jacob third, and then there's a massive gap, and it's kind of just been whoever plays good that week. But oddly enough, Jacob is playing Cam and is favorited to win, and Bobby plays Andrew. So 2 heavily favorited matchups there. I mean, upsets can happen, but like last week they didn't really happen. So there's a good chance that Cam takes a loss, that Andrew takes a loss, and there's a good chance that I take a loss. So the game that's really up in the air right now is going to be Thomas and Nick. So if Thomas can come through and win, there's a good chance that all 4 of us lose and I retain that last spot, like I've kind of been saying this whole week. But Finley has the best bet. I mean, Andrew's team can pop off. The 49ers are playing the Dolphins, who have a horrible defense. So all in all, the Dolphins could, save Andrew there. It just depends on how healthy McCaffrey is and how much they try to use him towards the end of the season. So it's tough to tell. But if we want to dig deeper into these matchups, we got Joe Burrow with the huge matchup against KC, but Jacob on the other side has Patrick Mahomes, so that's a wash right there. We have Deshaun Watson. Who knows how good he's going to be, but he's playing Houston, so he's got to be all right. And if Deshaun Watson's not scoring or playing well, it's going to be Nick Chubb. So Jacob has a pretty solid stack there. I don't think he realized how good Nick Chubb was going to be this year. I don't think anybody realized how good Nick Chubb was going to be this year. He has Etienne and Pierce. Etienne is obviously great. Pierce is going to be his Achilles heel this year. The guy is fantastic. He's a great player. You can tell he runs hard. He had some great games and a really good solid stretch midway through the season, but 2 points and 3 points is just not going to cut it. There's just, when you're playing guys like Connor, who have Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor, you can't have your running back at 3 points. So Jacob has good bench depth. He has Miles Sanders, who's a boomer bust. But Pierce is going to be the one that's kind of his Achilles heel, because outside of Pierce, Jacob's team is just stacked. He has Justin Jefferson, who's by far and away the best receiver in the league. Just watching him play is just insane. Just in terms of skill and route running, Tyreek's obviously just insanely fast, but just Justin Jefferson's amazing. And then the pleasant surprise of Jalen Waddle this year has been great. He is playing San Francisco this week, so that could be good. This is going to be huge to watch if Jamar Chase can get in there and have, like I was saying last year when they played KC, right there, 55 points. That's what won the league for Cam. So who knows? He has to have a huge week and have so he has to win and then outscore Finley by 40 basically. So it's going to be tough, but it can be done. So going down the line some more, like I said, Nick Chubb and the Deshaun Watson stack's going to be huge for Connor, or for Jacob. They play Cincy, Baltimore, which is great for week 1. So most likely Jacob is playing Connor. And so that's going to be great for him to have those two guys with those two matchups. Then New Orleans and Washington's tough. So if he gets into the championship, that's obviously going to be a lot tougher of a matchup. But I think just getting in the championship is, who knows what happens at that point. So to have those good, solid matchups the first week against Connor is going to be great. On Cam's side, outside Joe Burrow, you got Daniel Jones, who is kind of a boomer bust, but Washington's been playing really good defense. Ramondre has just been the pleasant surprise this season, not only as like a running back, but as a pass catcher. 7 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets on Thanksgiving. You see Mac Jones drop back, and he's looking for Ramondre, so he's been fabulous. And Tony Pollard, I mean, everybody kind of expected this to kind of happen eventually. It was just so obvious, even in the past years, that Tony Pollard was so much more explosive than Zeke. And you can see this stretch right here, 36, 23, 36, just absolutely crazy. But with Zeke healthy again, and the way the Cowboys just avoid feeding Pollard, I mean, they have a good, switch up. You got a power back and a speed back, and it works, and you split their carries. And although Zeke's not the prettiest running back to watch, he does punish defenses. He's harder to bring down. He's just a big guy. And then you switch it up with Pollard, who's just smaller and super fast, and it's just a great duo. But it'll be tough to see. It'll be interesting to see how he plays against Indy, and I have Zeke in my starting lineup, so one of them are going to do great, or both of them can do good. So Ayuk against a solid matchup in Miami, and then Olave has been a great pickup for Cam. He's going to be a good, he's already showed promise, and he has Andy Dalton throwing to him. So if the Saints ever get, a really good quarterback, he's going to be pretty solid going forward. So this one's going to be close. Cam has to take the win, and he has to beat Finley by 50. If Finley wins, that's huge. Obviously, we start with this matchup, Thomas versus Finley, and then we go from there. The next matchup that we're watching is Andrew versus Bobby. We'll know Thursday how many points Andrew's going to need to score, but Josh Allen's playing New England, but you got Dak against Indiana. Josh Jacobs has just been crazy. We got questionable on him. Limited Wednesday, he will probably play, and he has just been RB1. Who would have thought? It's just, he's been insane this year. Then we have Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is just, he's a boomer bust, but absolutely great running back. Kind of that speed back that they have in Green Bay. Devontae against the Chargers is going to just go crazy. So Bobby's team just down the line is basically the only team that can kind of match Connor outside of Jacob. In a 2-week stretch, it's going to be hard to see the Bills not play well, and then he has kind of that handcuff for Hurts in A.J. Brown. So if Hurts does throw a bunch of touchdowns, it's to A.J. Brown. And look at this, so 14-15, Miami's going to be massive because they just score a lot of points, so the Bills will score a ton of points week 15, and then you got Chicago-Cincy, and I can see this Cincy game, being the make or break game, so some big matchups. And then over on Andrew's side, this is definitely the best team Andrew's put together in his career. Having Christian McCaffrey stay healthy this year and Austin Eckler stay healthy has just been fantastic for him. That duo is amazing. He's had good receivers all year, but he's struggled to start the right ones. Christian Kirk and Amari Cooper look to be in the lineup right now. Mike Evans has been a really big disappointment this year in terms of just some dud games when Andrew really needed him. To go 6-8-4 kind of contributed to Andrew's losing streak right now. He did just acquire Tom Brady, but it's going to be tough to start Tom Brady against New Orleans. He tends to suck against New Orleans, but without Stafford in there, it's just, what do you do? Having Tom Brady down the stretch is going to be really nice, though. So that's what we're watching this weekend, and I hope you guys enjoy it. This is kind of what we all look forward to, is a really tight playoff window, and it was always the person who got to 7 wins is going to make the playoffs. So if I get to 7 wins, I'm in. If I lose to Connor, it opens the door for Finley, Andrew, and Cam, just depending on how they play. And we could all lose, so I could make it based on everybody losing. But we will see how that plays out. And I think that's all I got for you guys. So hope you enjoyed the recap, and I hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see who makes it in the playoffs.